Hello and welcome to A View from the Cab. And what I'd like to talk about this time around is the truck driver shortage we've got in the UK now. I keep getting these articles coming up in my news feed about how we're 100,000 truck drivers short. And you have to wonder, why do these people think it's so... It's like rocket science to these people. They think, we've got no truck drivers. Why doesn't anyone want to be a truck driver? Well, being a truck driver is a bit gutty, really. It's not the best job in the world. What they're doing actually is, as I keep getting these articles saying, this company is now paying £17, £18 an hour to entice truck drivers back into the industry. And it was that lowballing mentality that drove truck drivers out of the industry. They're saying, because of the current situation over the last 18 months or so, a lot of potential HGV drivers haven't been able to do their HGV driving test, and there's probably some truth in that. But just think how many HGV drivers have just walked away from the industry because the hours are bad, the conditions are bad, the pay is terrible, the vehicles are slow, and there's been times I've often thought over the years of just turning my back on the bus industry because the hours are bad, the conditions are bad, and everything is bad. Vehicles are slow, you wouldn't believe some of the old wrecks I've driven over the years. But the thing is, truck drivers, they can't work it out. Now they're talking about bringing in the army. We're going to bring in the army now. That's the plan. That's the solution. Well, yeah, it's not, is it? I read a thing last night and it was saying there's only 2,000 qualified HGV drivers in the army, and there's still 100,000 drivers short. Because it's this short-termism. I've talked about short-term thinking numerous times before. Short-term thinking in the bus industry, short-term thinking in the truck industry. And they've done this low-balling attitude for years and years and years. And then eventually drivers will say, well, I'm not going to live in my truck all week, doing the maximum hours and the minimum rest times and not being looked after. And of course, when they get to these distribution centres and they get to these places where they're going to deliver, and they say, is it alright if you use your toilet real quick? And then these companies say, no, you're not using our facilities, you can jog on. And this is the problem. It's not just a case of the hours are terrible, which, let's be fair, if you're a tramper, they are. Some people prefer the tramper way of working, which is fine. It's horses for courses. But how many of these drivers have thought, do you know what, I can't be doing with it. You just need to use the toilet. Why can't I just use your facilities? No, we don't want truck drivers using our facilities. And then when drivers leave the industry, they say, up your pipe, I'm not doing that. I'll go and work. When you look at it, a lot of times there's jobs that are much easier, much less risk involved. The potential, if you're driving a large vehicle, a truck or a bus, the potential to kill people is very, very real. And I'm not just trying to be dramatic. The potential to kill, maim, permanently injure somebody is very real. The risks of injuring somebody else or yourself are very real. You could go to work one day, something could happen, an accident could happen or an incident could happen, you could kill or maim somebody, and you won't go home for 10 years. And that's not being dramatic. That's just simply, there's such a lot of responsibility, there's such a lot of, and these operators, bus and truck operators, they preach on and on and on. They say, make sure you stick to your driving hours, don't go over your hours, don't do this and don't do that. But then when the time comes and they really want something doing, they'll just forego all that. And then if you slip up, they'll say, well, we did tell him. They'll throw you to the wolves. Oh, we did tell him not to go over his hours. No, you didn't. You told me to just chuck that taco in the bin, that taco chart in the bin, and that's happened a lot over the years. You know, there's so much fraud around it all. And then you got the transport managers and their shenanigans. Oh, I can keep you driving for 3 days straight before I give you a 1 minute meal break because of this condition and that condition. There's so many conditions and so many workarounds for transport managers to just manipulate and exploit the system and the drivers. And eventually drivers are just going to say, oh, just keep it, it's not worth the stress. You know, a lot of times I've thought I could go and stack shelves in Asda and make more money and have less risk and less stress and less responsibility. You know, a supermarket will pay me more. You know, and now they're saying, oh, we're 100,000 drivers short. Nobody wants to be a truck driver. Why is that? Well, let's have a think, shall we? Let's have a think. You get to drive a rubbishy old truck up and down the country. You know, it's got no power in it. It's got no life in it. It's been kicked to death. You know, it's cramped. It's uncomfortable. It's unpleasant. The hours are long. The pay is appalling. You know, who wants to... You see it in the films. You see these big trucks in the films. You think, oh, it looks so cool. But the reality of it is much, much different. It's not cool. It's not... You know, the way the drivers are treated. You see it on these... There's a program I can think of one of the UK's biggest fleet operators, a very, very famous fleet operator, and they do this program. And I've watched the program, and who's the guy in the office? The person in the office, the planner in the office, phones them up, and the camera's in the cab with the driver. And it's, hello, mate. How are you doing today? Where are you? What's your status? You know. And a bloke was telling me, I was talking to somebody that used to work for this very, very large, very famous haulier, and he said, yeah, he said, it's not like that. He said, it's nothing like that. He said, they'll phone you up and they'll just be like, where are you? What are you doing? Why aren't you hurrying up? Get an effing move on. He said, that's how it is. Get an effing move on. You know? He said, there's not like, hello mate, you're right, how's it going? He says, it's not like that at all. He says, the complete opposite. He said, it's just a sham. It's just put on for the cameras. So, you know, drivers, HGV drivers, they're expected to drive the length and breadth of the country for not much above minimum wage in a lot of cases. And then they say, oh yeah, you could, use of the word could, you could potentially earn up to 50 grand a year if you become a truck driver. Yeah, if I want to risk my life transporting fuel, or even worse, nuclear material, then maybe, and if I worked a 90-hour week and never went home, potentially I may earn 50 grand a year, maybe. You know, maybe, possibly, potentially could, you know. No, it's not. It's just gutty work. It's repetitive. It's boring. It doesn't, you know, and these hauliers and the industry in general has lowballed drivers for so long, and they're saying, oh, well, it's Brexit's fault, isn't it? Well, maybe that's part of it as well. Maybe Brexit is to do with it, because now a lot of the, and this is the thing as well, they're saying, oh, a lot of the European drivers have gone home now. Well, yeah, and this is going to sound terrible, but it's because of these European drivers that were keeping the rates down. And now they've all gone home, or let's say they've all gone home, and they're driving around they're just driving around mainland Europe now. Now we're short. Now they've got to start putting their hands in their pockets, and now they've got to start paying the drivers. You know, I've been reading articles. Oh, this company, ABC Haulage, has now started paying their drivers £16 an hour to stop them being poached. Well, if you can afford to pay them £16 an hour now, why wasn't you paying them £16 an hour in the first place? Oh, it's to stop them being poached. Well, I'm sorry, but you're just as bad as everyone else then. If you can afford to pay that today to stop them leaving, you could afford to pay it 6 months ago and keep your drivers happy, keep your staff happy. But no, they don't care, you see, that's the problem. Oh mate, you're right. No, I'm not your mate. I'm just a driver, I'm just a number, and I'm here to do a job. Don't pee on my leg and tell me it's raining. It's as simple as that. They've lowballed truck drivers for so long. They've lowballed bus and coach drivers for a long time. I mean, the difference is, in trucks and PCV transport is different, but the mentality's still the same. It's I'll do a whole vlog on lowballing in the bus industry another time. The short-term thinking is coming. It's all coming home to roost now for these hauliers. It's all coming back. It's all coming back on them. You can't lowball people for years and years and years. Treat them like absolute rubbish. I mean, I've often said that all these trucks, all these HGVs should have a minimum of 700 brake horsepower. They should all be charging around in the high-powered Volvos and Scanias that are 730 brake horsepower plus. Give them nice trucks to drive. Give them nice trucks. Give them nice wages, and you'll see an influx of truck drivers coming back into the industry. If they've got somewhere they can go and have a shower and a shave and go to the toilet, and I understand that there's going to be those dirty drivers that have left facilities in a mess, but you can't just blame every single HGV driver because somebody left a mess. If you run a distribution centre and you want goods bringing in, you have to accept that the drivers are going to need to go to the toilet, and they're going to want a shower and a shave, and they're going to want somewhere to, you know what I mean? If you've got a canteen, just let them sit in the canteen and have something to eat. Let them eat at a table with a table and chairs, not just on the steering wheel in their truck. They don't think of the human aspect of drivers. They just don't think that a truck driver's going to want to have a sit-down meal, a hot meal that he's not had to cook himself, even if he's got to pay a couple of quid for it. But there we are. That is my view from the cab, and that's pretty much all I've got to say about that for the time being. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you on the next one. Bye for now.